Hello, Linux and Parker family. This is Crystal Jordan, your editor in chief. And you guys know if you see me here, then it's time for another Culture Conversations. Today's conversation is with one of the most creative minds in social media. She is a fellow Crystal Alejandro, and she has created Black Community TV, which I love. I told her I just went to the YouTube channel, and there's so much amazing information. So, you guys, make sure you check that out. But today we're talking about a new project that she has created called Black Teen Revolution. So please help me welcome Crystal Alejandro to Culture Conversations. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you for having me. What an intro. Made me tear up a little bit.
Well, you have done what you've done with Black Community TV is definitely to be celebrated. So I'm really honored that we're getting a chance to highlight that as well. So even though I know today we're talking about Black Teen Revolution, I really encourage our readers and our followers to go and just, as I told you earlier, I just kind of got lost. There's so much great information. And as a journalist, I just love context, when you have a story that has additional context. So with that being said, let's jump into Black Teen Revolution. My background is, being a music publicist and understanding the trends in music. I definitely understood how important dance, and specifically from urban culture, and young Black teens and just young Black people really have set trends, in music and dance. And so my first question to you is, what do you think it is about Black teenagers that just has the ability to set the trends that go across pop culture and really just global culture?
Honestly, Black American culture is so rich that I feel like teenagers grasp onto things that they see the elders and the adults doing. Like Michael Jackson was a pioneer, and TLC. We have there's so many icons that come from Black America,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that really inspired teenagers to want to create something for themselves, for the culture, and for the generation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just listening to that can, I represent TLC and have for so long, and a big part of their the group's identity includes dance, obviously, and so I've learned a lot. Working with them, specifically Chili is just was a dancer prior to being in the group, and has really kind of educated me on a lot of the dances that started here in Georgia. But let's just talk from a overall perspective right now. And I think about all the different dance crazes, from Whoop Rico to Chicken Noodle Soup to Bankhead Back, like all of these originated in Black culture, and usually it was from the young people just having fun. Where do you think the creativity comes, specifically when it comes to our music and the way we interpret it?
A lot of free time, number one, with the teenagers. I mean, with my generation, which is also the generation that created Chicken Noodle Soup and Crank That and Jerkin, we were born at a time where technology was advancing. So then came the inception of YouTube, and we realized that we can showcase our talent for social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really inspired people to really hone in on their craft, whether you were a singer and you wanted to upload covers, um, even down to dancing, which is the topic,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. But yeah, so free time and social media. Um, you'll even see in the documentary, we have some of those dancers talk about how they inspired their generation at the time to want to dance,
Mm-hmm.
because in Atlanta, there was a lot of emphasis on hyper masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's dancing, but these guys made dancing cool. It's like, let's get together with some boys, let's record ourselves, let's post it on YouTube, and hopefully we'll go viral. Obviously, we didn't know what viral meant at the time, but it really did inspire people to Find some type of hobby or do something cool with some friends so you could
Mhm.
be noticed on the internet.
Yeah, I moved to Atlanta in 2005, and so it was at you know one of the things that I noticed is that in the club scene here, men were dancing. Like you said, you kind of moved past that hyper masculine phase, and you had the snapping, the D Pharrell, and the oh my gosh,
Pranking?
definitely where you had a lot of people crumping. You had just there was a lot of dancing happening at that time, but specifically with the music kind of taking a shift, and Soldier Boy was a big part of that movement. I don't think people really give him as much credit as he deserves. That crank that was it went from this kid who was probably what 14 at the time to being something that people were doing across the country, and it definitely took off online. Talk to us a little bit about like some of those crazes and how there was another group that did the oh my gosh, there's so many
Yeah.
different forms of dance that came, and they usually sometimes the dance even gets bigger than the artist, it becomes. I know with Jock, people were doing the Tom Cruise, I think, did his dance on Oprah's show. So I mean,
The
it's just
motorcycle.
motorcycle, yeah. So with it's going down, he did the dance, and it becomes something that people can really have a great time with. Let's talk about the documentary and kind of how you all kind of narrate this journey of dancing and how it gets passed along and goes from belonging to the urban culture to becoming very mainstream.
Yes, so this documentary is narrated by the actual pioneers of these dances. So I went from Atlanta all the way up to Harlem, where chicken noodle soup was, all the way back to LA, where jerking and crumping was really popular. And yeah, they basically take you through their life, the origins of the dances, how they came up with it, how it took off, how they influenced pop culture and just culture in
Mm-hmm.
general,
Mm-hmm.
and where their lives went afterwards. Because, once a lot of things go mainstream, particularly for Black talent, they get lost. Their legacy gets forgotten a lot of times. I don't know if you remember in the early 2010s, there was a resurgence of the Harlem Shake, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the Harlem Shake. It was just
Mm-hmm.
a song where, I don't know, it was like an instrumental and people were in a room jumping around and going crazy. And it was called the Harlem Shake. So,
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit of erasure of what the actual dance style was. Um, Even down to jerking and crumping. You even mentioned Tom Cruise doing the motorcycle dance. A lot of times when people see things become so popular, they think that this was originated by white people, or, they don't really know the true pioneers behind these dance styles. So, yeah, these individuals tell the story through their eyes.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned Chili, and she would definitely. She taught me the history. Her and her cousin Ronald. Shout out to them, to the Yeek, and she's like a lot of the dances that they created early on. That were created by young people early on, are seen in some of the most popular artists today. If you watch Chris Brown's performance, you're going to see a little bit of crumping, you're going to see a little bit of Yeek, and you're going to see a little bit of probably the Harlem Shake. All of these dances become a part of just mainstream, culture, and specifically people that are part of the dance industry, that just get recycled over and over. Do you think the pioneers feel like they really get they're just their flowers for being contributing to something that gets changed and manipulated, but it still comes from those roots that they originated years ago?
Um, with the conversations I had with them, a lot of them are, very proud of the legacy that they've left, but at the same time, they're they can be a little resentful at times, knowing that they didn't get their just due. They haven't gotten their flowers. People don't know the origins of where cranking came from.
Mhm.
Um, the Rangers, who kind of were the pioneers behind Jerkin, their careers came to an abrupt end. And it's kind of almost as if they never created that dance style or that movement in the first place,
Mhm.
because you probably think Jerkin came from the New Boys, the ones who made the song You're a Jerk.
Mhm.
It's not from them. It
Mhm.
was from the Rangers. So it's that type of thing that you'll hear them discuss. Like, yes, we're happy with what we created, and how big of a phenomenon this has become. But at the same time, it is disheartening knowing that, you know, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And is going to be one of those stories about a lost legacy. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm making this documentary. I don't want any of these legacies or stories to be lost in history at all.
Mhm. Well, that's the beautiful thing about this is that, because I guess you really can't trademark a dance. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I would assume that Little Mama created the chicken noodle soup. You know what I mean? Because that's what we saw, doing the dance. So with that, without those, without historians and people telling the story like yourself, there's really no way to know. So I think that's why these pieces are really important, to not only give them their flowers, but also to really explain to young dancers. My daughter is a dancer and loves. She grew up, doing ballet, tap, and jazz, but when she moved to Atlanta, became really immersed in hip hop, and so just being able to give that history and give kind of a reference point to some of the things that we see interpreted, like I said, on stages. You watch Sierra obviously has influence from definitely Crumping, but Yeeking and all that. Like, that's part of what you see her performing all the time. And so I think it's great to educate young people that may not have any idea about, oh, that move comes from this, you know um where that comes from. What do you think about, just some of the popular dances? I know that there's a huge conversation about twerking and the fact that that did not necessarily initially, that style of dance actually goes back to Africa, and there's so much more there. What do you think about just the craze of people having so much positive and negative to say about twerking?
Oh my gosh. So twerking, that one was very frustrating for me back in 2014, 2013-ish, when Miley Cyrus was doing it. And, like all the headlines were like, crediting her as like the queen of twerk and
Mm-hmm.
the pioneer of twerk. I remember I was watching an award show. It might have been like the American Music Awards or something, and they were having like a twerk off. They wanted the audience to do like the world's largest twerk off, and I was like, this is so sad. But did it have a negative impact on the way twerking was viewed? I guess that's subjective, because I think booty shaking has always been
Mm-hmm.
frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
But now that Miley Cyrus and a few other white people put it to the forefront, and then the Black girls actually come forward and be like, no, this is what twerking is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, oh, no, we don't want, like, that's so vulgar. That's so disgusting, because what Miley was doing was a watered down version. So when they really see it, it's like, this is so gross. What
Mm-hmm.
are they doing? What are they doing with their culture? That type of thing can be very damaging.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the twerking craze was so upsetting to witness.
I agree with you. I think that I, I don't think that it's necessary. It definitely is watered down, but it's probably because the talent may not be there. Like, they probably, a lot of the people outside of Black culture want to mimic it, and they just do it wrong, and it comes off looking a different way. There was another dance that like you said, it happens all the time. Our culture is taken and watered down, and then claimed, by others, in music, dance, and even fashion and things, and every particular art form. It seems like that happens. But I think that's also why it's so important for us to tell our stories. Can you tell us maybe like a few more points that people don't know? Definitely twerking is one that had a huge that's some just like a huge mainstream conversation. But I know there was a lot. There was a piece out few years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, on Crumping and just the entire history of that. So if you could maybe share a few more things that our viewers may not know, that they may be surprised about and may find out when they watch this documentary.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned Crumping because one of the commentators of this documentary is Dr. Shamel Bell, and she was one of the founding members of Crumping. She was there in the thick of it since the late 90s, early 2000s. She appeared as a crumper in Christina Aguilera's Dirty video, along with the other song, I think, what is it, Can't Hold Us with Lil Kim.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and she talked about how crumping was a form of self expression and a way to channel your anger and aggression. And they were happy when it became mainstream. But then it came to a point where the white folks were like, no, that's too aggressive.
Mm,
That's too, can you water it down a little bit? I don't know if you remember, David LaChapelle did a documentary, an amazing documentary on crumping called
mhm.
Rise that came out in
Yes.
2005.
Hmm.
And there were even like allegations that um, the producers and directors tried to amp up the violence a little bit, make it seem like it was a rivalry between the crumpers and the clown dancers, like
Hmm.
angle it in that way. A lot of people can come in and just taint art forms that were never meant to be negative for
Hmm.
Black people. Another thing a lot of people are going to be surprised about when they see the Black Teen Revolution documentary is that Soldier Boy didn't 100% create the
Yeah.
crank that dance. So the Flow Masters, which were a group of four young men from East Atlanta, I think they're from Bankhead. Sorry,
Hmm.
that's West. Sorry. Yeah, they're from Bankhead, and they were known in the cranking era and the snapping era. They're called the Kings of Snap. They worked heavily with Lil Jon.
Hmm.
Um, they appeared in the Walk It Out music video. They've done a lot. They also originated the motorcycle dance
Oh wow, the jock
mentioned
did.
earlier. Young Jock took that from them. It wasn't called the motorcycle dance, but I guess Young Jock was just doing his hand like that. Yeah, so they are the originators of it. Soldier Boy was a fan of the Flow Masters, and he really wanted to be a part of their crew, but he was so young at the time, probably
Hmm.
about 13 or 14.
Hmm.
And they said they used to get a lot of messages from him on MySpace, and they looked at him as just like
Yeah.
another fan trying to join the group. But
Wow.
then um, Crank That took off. Crank That kind of interpolates a song that they had created that he heard on their MySpace page.
Oh
And
wow.
also, the dance for Crank That Soldier Boy is almost identical to a dance routine that the Flow Masters did often. And we have the footage and everything. But that's still not to take away from what Soldier Boy was able to do. His journey is commendable. I
Hmm.
say he's very resourceful. I
Hmm.
mean, even though people might call him a copycat or whatever the case may be. I love the fact that this 15-year-old kid took something that he saw and said, how can I spin this? How can I monetize it? And he was the first to do a lot of things. He's like the first influencer, one of the
Hmm.
first teen stars from YouTube. I think he's actually probably the first musician from YouTube to blow up. I could be wrong. Got to fact check that.
He
But
also did the he was the first to have like a ringtone deal because he
yeah,
just was the first of a lot of things that
yeah.
I don't think people think about. But it's interesting to see how he did try initially to reach out to them, but he appreciated the culture. So it's like it becomes like imitation is the highest form of flattery, but often the people that that take the imitation, end up getting the praise and could benefit financially from it if it's the right time. So I guess that happens a lot.
Right. Yeah, I think he's a great businessman. I can't knock it. Even the Flow Masters, they're like, as upsetting it was at the time to see someone's career taken off of something that you created or that was partially taken from you, it's still commendable.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you gotta give it to him. He
Yeah.
he definitely changed pop culture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, we just want to, just give you your flowers for creating something that's definitely needed. This history is definitely something I think a lot of young people need to see, because they need to see the creativity and ingenuity that's always been a part of Black culture, specifically with young people. So let people know where they can find the documentary, where they can learn more about what you're doing with Black Femininity TV.
Yes. So right now, all we have out is the teaser because we launched the campaign on seedandspark.com. So if anybody likes the idea of the documentary, they love the story, and have a genuine respect for the culture and storytelling, they can head over to seedandspark.com/fund/. Black Teen Revolution to help us out with the campaign so that we can finish the documentary. Right now, we are editing, working on copyrights. It's a long road ahead to get this documentary done. Um, I would love to screen at different film festivals, get a distributor in the future, and get this on streaming. So yes, again, seedandspark.com/fund/Black Teen Revolution to read more about the documentary and to help us out with the campaign so that we can bring this documentary to life.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely want to help as much as we can here at Lennox and Parker to get the word out and to get people to be able to go over to seedandspark.com/fund, and then make sure you put in Black Teen Revolution and just give what you can. I think our art and the art that we create is worth protecting and worth promoting. And so we definitely, like I said, just want to be a part of helping get the word out about this and celebrating a story that is really just a part of another example of Black excellence and Black culture, which is what we're all about here at Lennox and Parker. So thank you again, Crystal, for hanging out with me a little bit today and talking about Black Teen Revolution. We are speaking it into existence that this is going to be on a streaming platform near us as soon as possible, and hopefully can get some great recognition from some amazing festivals as people get a chance to. And just dancing just feels good, and just seeing the creativity is
Yes.
inspiring. So we definitely wish you well, and look forward to seeing it and to come to fruition and more projects from Black Femininity TV.
Yes, and thank you, Crystal and Lennox and Parker, for even taking this time to speak to me. I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you soon. Thanks a lot, Crystal.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye. All right. Well, you guys have heard it here. Make sure that you go over to Seed and Spark /fun and then Black Teen Revolution to support Crystal and just to see a little bit more information about Black Teen Revolution. Like I said, to being a music publicist, I definitely had a chance to kind of see what goes into the creation when it comes to performances, and all of these dances that have roots in our history are you see them on, whether it's your favorite dance troupe dancing, or you're watching. I get a chance to see TLC dance and see that their choreographer makeup routines, and it's just amazing, and it's definitely inspirational. So make sure that you check it out and support our girl Crystal, and check out Black Femininity TV. If you're anything like me, you're going to get lost over there because there's so much great information, so many amazing projects that they have highlighted, and you definitely don't want to miss that. Outside of that, make sure that you check in here with us at Lennox and Parker, because we have so much more coming. As you know, we are celebrating Black excellence and not chasing pop culture, because we believe that Black excellence really does set the tone for pop culture. So we will see you right back here next time with more information from Lennox and Parker. This has been your girl, Crystal Jordan, wishing you a beautiful week. Bye-bye.